Inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, Shah Nur, mashallah. Can you first explain where you come from, your background, your age, your history, work?
Well, subhanallah, I'm 34 years old. Subhanallah, born and raised in London. I'm from a Bangladeshi ethnic background, and yeah, I studied in state school, St Paul's Way. I went to Ibrahim College, which is so I did my ISB1 there, Islamic Sciences program. I did my sixth form, and then I went into university. I did a foundation degree in anthropology at Goldsmiths University. I did anthropology, and then I did fine art and illustration in Timeless College as a diploma. And I've worked in charities, Islamic charities. I've worked in Islamic education institutions like Ibrahim College, and I have then worked in media. So worked in Iman Channel, worked in Islam Channel, TV1, which is the Bangla channel, and various roles in producing, presenting, even writing, and I'm very passionate about media and performance. And I write. Some of my hobbies, I write poetry, I draw, and I also freelance as a copy editor and someone who writes and edits documents for various clients. They could be charities, they could be independents, they could be any kind of website who wants to kind of better their image online. So this is the kind of freelance stuff I do. I also do voiceovers. So I do adverts. So Travel Express, $2.99. That kind of thing I do. So I use my voice to narration scripts and things. But yeah, so various forms of creative writing and performance as well. So these are some of my hobbies as well.
How long were you in Ibrahim College?
So I was in Ibrahim College for about 3 years.
Yeah. MashaAllah, okay, yeah. MashaAllah.
So
So, mashallah, vast talent. First of all, do you have a message or messages or give advice to the ummah, to the world, to the community?
Through subhanallah, I believe that people have their own journey, and not everyone's journey is the same. So everyone has their own perspective and their own pathway to Allah, but ultimately it's back to Allah. So advice, there's general advice and then there's specific advice. I can only talk about my own experience, and my experience is that learn to be comfortable with who you are, because Allah created you upon your fitrah, and your fitrah is different than other people. So sometimes, especially in this day and age, we find pressure to be like someone else, or to be what we see, but we may not be geared for that. We may not be built for that. So first of all, learn about who you are, and then learn to love who you are.
And fitra, for those who don't understand,
is disposition, is your
inclination.
Yeah, your natural biological disposition. It's how Allah created you in terms of your biological makeup. Like for example, men and women have a fitra that's very different from each other. Women have a certain biological preference and a certain biological way, and men similarly have a different way, right? And that's the fitrah that they've been created upon. Similarly, when it comes to our psychology and our likes and dislikes and our preferences, we also have a fitrah as well, right? So and the objective, one of the objectives of life is to learn that fitrah and then learn to love it. Because Allah created you on that. Accept it. Learn to love and accept
and
that.
Utilize it.
Exactly.
There's one in the book of Atomic Habits. I don't know if you read it.
Okay, I've heard of it.
It said that it's beautiful. He said that your DNA doesn't determine the destination or your destiny. It determines your area of opportunity. Yeah. So, what advice would you render or give to your younger self, knowing what you know or have experienced?
One.
Say it. So, I'll give you. So, first, say for example, you become of age now. Now you start thinking. So, put yourself in that situation. Okay, if I knew now, because then you you know that time you would have accepted the advice or whatever. So what would you give then if you could go back?
Subhanallah, then that's obviously very general. It's like but if I were to talk to myself specifically, just myself, in terms of my experience, again, it's what I said in the beginning: learn to love who you are. I thought I had mental problems because the way I see the world and the way I am was just kind of different from many of the people around me, and they had very different kind of ways of doing things, very different aspirations. And I thought there's something must be wrong with me. But then I realized that wait a minute, this is those perceived weaknesses are actually big strengths. The way I see the world, how creatively I see the world, how I can think of outside the box, even when it comes down to strategy and strategizing and being able to envision certain things. And a lot of people couldn't do that, but I can do that, right? So that took me a very long time to appreciate and to kind of see the benefits of that. And even to this day, I'm still struggling to accept that part of myself, right? And then monetize it, right? And so if I could tell myself, is that, look, you are right just the way you are. If I could tell myself, if I could go back and say, you are right just the way you are. So first learn to love who you are, and also take, when people advise you, who love you, who have your best interest, take their advice. Because sometimes my arrogance was very high, so I could tell, if I could tell my younger self, is that, look, don't be so hasty, don't be so arrogant, take people's advice.
And what do you think you would save so many years?
I would have saved many years. But again, this is the journey, isn't it? Like, who I am now is a product of all the mistakes and things that I've made.
So now to the youth in general, what advice would you give them?
So the youth in general, I would say that I would say learn to love Allah, learn to please Allah, because Allah is the beginning, Allah is the end. And the sooner you can get round to that if you please Allah, Allah will please you. This is the advice I would give to the youth, is that if you please Allah, Allah will please you. Basically, that's it. Learn to please Allah. Learn to find what will please Allah, because I've lived life and I've done many things displeasurable to Allah. I've sinned. I've done things that were wrong and bad, and I suffered for that. Maybe in the moment there's a bit of pleasure, but then the smack in the face is very harsh. And Allah says that, warns that in the Quran. And as you get older, these realizations become to crystallize, and then you realize you can't escape. You can't escape Allah. Ad-dunya sijnul mu'min wa jannatul kafir. This world is a prison for the believer and a heaven for the disbeliever. So this world, you can't fly out of this world. You can't escape. So Allah created this world and the systems of the world, and Allah always in the Quran says that the good end is for the muhsinun, the good doers, the believers who did good deeds. So if you want to save yourself lots of hassle, if you want to save yourself lots of heartache and hardship, learn to please Allah, and Allah will please you.
It's Ajib you said that, amazing, because people want to escape the world. They think by going to substance or by ignoring the situation, but you have to deal with it regardless, or else it just come back again, isn't it? So alhamdulillah, mashallah.
And something else I would add actually as well is that subhanAllah, many and so in the process of pleasing Allah, we may try to take on things that are too difficult for us, and we may have a different, like a limited understanding of religion. For example, sometimes you have to learn to relax as well. Do what's within your capacity. So if that's another advice I can give to people, is that understand that Deen Islam is very wide. It's not narrow. It's not this narrow path that then you're trying to fit in, and if you don't fit in, that you think that you don't have religion anymore. No, Islam is very wide, and Allah says in the Quran, He wants ease for you. It's people who make things difficult. Allah makes things easy. It's people who make things difficult. So that's that's
interesting.
That's other side of the coin.
Very interesting. The last question: what advice can you render to your people of your background, race, ethnic minority, gender, to all ages, parents? Given.
My advice. My advice would be. SubhanAllah, what would my advice be in terms of parents?
Okay, let's focus into your from your background.
From my
Okay.
background.
Yeah.
Learn from
Because
our
you can only
history.
speak from your race, isn't it? You can background, ethnic manner, and gender. And that's it.
I mean, I would say learn from history. Learn from your own history. Every people, especially because we're in like we're an immigrant people here, we have a very rich history, a very rich culture, and if I could give an advice, is that look, to save yourself, learn from your past, because we've got dealings with the British going back hundreds of years, and many of our people, especially from my people here, we bend over backwards to please the very people who are trying to destroy us, right? So we bend too easily, and we don't learn from history. We don't learn that entire communities were destroyed, their religion was stripped from them, and in the process all their riches were taken at the same time, right? Meaning all, you know, if people don't value religion, at least they'll value their money and their houses and their so know that if you let yourself get exploited the same way you did in the past, then you will lose out just like you lost in the past. So if I could tell my people, is that learn from your history, you know, and don't let history repeat.
I think that goes for every
exactly. So every people has its history.
To go in order to go forward, you need to learn the past, isn't it?
Yeah.
So or else we lost we're not here, we're not there. That's what's happening to a lot of people now. You know, the face and the color and the name is one thing, but the inside is different. You know, but alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, brother. I hope I didn't take much of your time, and I hope the advice actually benefits a lot of people.
Inshallah.